Jesse, you've got a new film, A Christmas Blessing. It's out on Great American Pureflix. Tell us a little bit about this movie.
Well, this is the first film where I am not the romantic lead. And believe it or not, that's actually pretty exciting and pretty cool. So I know most people are like, what? What do you mean? But trust me, it's a really cool film about just helping others. And every character goes through sort of a life of giving, receiving, listening. And my character, especially Otto, which is spelled the same forward as it is backwards, is a very unique character who helps usher kind of every character along towards discovering kind of their own life and the choices that I think they want to make. You know, it's not forced, it's not pressured, but it's this really cool kind of Christmas cheer mixed with, just really helping others and thinking of others and allowing yourself to be changed by that transformation.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And as you were saying, you're excited because it's a little different from some of the other projects that you have worked on. You've been in Hollywood a long time. You've been working in entertainment for quite a while. What was your journey into Hollywood?
Yeah, you're right. I think I'm just coming into 24 years.
Wow.
Which kind of baffles my mind because I'm like, wait, what? Wow. Okay. I mean, my journey honestly has been kind of a trial and error. I'd say if I had to sort of label it, one thing, if that was the book title for my career, it'd probably be trial and error. So
I like that. That's a good book title, actually. You should keep that one in your bank.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really a mix of other people, I think, believing in me and seeing something even when I didn't. And then eventually there's this push-pull of me hearing what others are saying, feeling what I'm feeling, and then trying to take what I have on the inside and put it on the outside and see, does that line up? Like, do I even think that I'm doing what other people think I'm doing? And there's this kind of connection that happened eventually. And I just love telling stories. So the more I got into it, And now I've been writing. I'm about to go into production on a film that I actually wrote. It's a Christmas comedy. And I'm going to be directing it, and I'm also starring in it. So yes, I'm wearing a number of hats, but I'm kind of doing the Rocky Balboa. I feel like sometimes you just got to risk, and I found a bunch of other people that are willing to jump into the deep end with me, and I'm really excited to bring something that's really fun and comedic, yet heartfelt, and to the screens for people. So my journey's
awesome.
been like this, man. It's a roller coaster. There's no, like, I always joke, but it's partially true. I'm in the business where I can be completely replaced by the guy who started yesterday. So that keeps you on your toes. It keeps your head on a swivel, right? You got to stay focused. You can't just get lackadaisical and kind of float. You gotta want it. I mean, and you gotta hustle. You gotta work. I like that.
Well, one of the things about you and your story that is interesting too is that you're a Christian, right? So you come at things in life from a faith perspective, and I would imagine that impacts what you choose to do, what you choose not to do when it comes to films and roles. Yeah, talk a little bit about that process, because I would imagine you don't just take every single thing that comes to you. You have to really be discerning in light of that faith lens.
Yeah, you picked the right word, discerning. Right, it's a spiritual growth, I think, that needs to occur there for all of us, no matter what we do. And I've really found that along the way, prayer and really leaning into my relationship with my wife and the two of us, really sort of spearheading that direction of career. Not just for me. It's not just my career. I mean, you try to impact others. I want to change I want to affect my marriage. I want to affect my children. I want to touch the community. And so there's a lot of angles that you got to think of. And so you really need direction in that. And you have to have a base. You have to have a support. Like, I can't just wing it. Although sometimes, yes, you're improvising, you're rolling with it. But a lot of the times you have a base. And as you mentioned, for me, that is faith. And that's how I view everything through. So absolutely, there's times that I'm like, man, I really love this story, but I'm not the one that, I can't be the face of it right now. It's like, some stories need to be told face to face across a coffee table, and some stories need to be told in movie theaters, and some need to be on a streaming platform. And I think that you got to figure that out along the way. And for me personally, I really want to kind of love everybody and where they're at and what they're doing, and yet at the same time really know what I believe and stay established in that, so that I don't just fall over when someone has an idea or opinion.
Yeah.
Scripture says you should not be like a reed in the ocean going to and fro. And so you really need to run the ramp of reason before you take that leap of faith. I mean, if you say you believe something, then live that out. Live it out in your marriage, live it out at your workplace, live it out in your community, live it out in your finances, your parenting, like how you handle strangers. I mean, just live that out. You won't be perfect, but by no means is believing in God means you're perfect. I mean, if anything, it means you really recognize how messed up you are. And
yeah,
you got to get
100%,
in there and make some changes.
Well, it's got to be tough too, because in an industry where you really are, like you were saying before, you can get replaced by the new guy who just started yesterday. That is challenging, because there's fame, there's money, there's notoriety. Hollywood entertainment, a lot of things come along with it that sort of play to our human inclinations, and that can be really difficult, especially I would imagine when there are things you say, you know what, I love that story, but I'm not going to do a sex scene, or I love that story, I'm not going to do something that's that violent. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but things that may cross a faith line for you, where if you did those things, maybe your career would look totally different, or maybe you would have more money coming in or more notoriety. How hard is it to continue on that path? Because again, 24 years is a long time to be making those concerted decisions.
Well, I think it's a mix of, as I get older, perhaps I can play the older stubborn card. Yet at the same time, that's not really what it's all made up of, right? It is growing in experience. It's having a career that's taken seriously because of time put in and sort of both tried, tested, and proven experience. So earlier in my career, that was difficult, because it was like, well, who's Jesse Hutch? Like, who's he to say no? I mean, just take the role or don't. Like, who are you? Like, oh, you're a big Hollywood actor, and you can say no. Like, no, you don't have that right. And that would come up a lot more in the beginning of my career. And I even then would still have to find ways to push forward, get in the room, audition, get to know the casting directors, really have a shot at a big project. But you know how many roles I've auditioned for that I'm like, please don't book this, but just allow it to go so well that they want to see me again. Go so well that they want to bring me back, right? There's different angles to this that you got to play. Sometimes you got to be that wolf. You got to be the sheep amongst wolf, and you got to just put that on. And I'm not saying, give up what you believe or go down a path of sketchiness. No, I'm just saying sometimes you gotta go, you know what? I don't want to play this character, but the writing's good and the casting director's phenomenal, and she's casted, Gladiator in this movie, and like, man, let's get in the room. And if this is my opportunity to get in the room, let's go crush that thing. Say yes till you got to say no, because sometimes that's the best approach. Sometimes you get too caught up, and I think it comes across as like Christianese when you're like, no, I'm Christian and I say no to all that. Again, I'm not saying don't have your morals and your boundaries set. There's times when absolutely, I just know that that's not for me. I'm not going to be able to be the lead in that series right now. There's just too much stuff going on. But some opportunities, you just say yes and, get your foot in the door. And hey, if God opens the door, then he wants you to go there for some reason. And it might not be what you think it is. It might not be so you book the role. It might not be so you actually play that part. It could be so you meet somebody along the way and you invest some time into their life, or you have a conversation. Who knows? I mean, God, Jesus is my agent. He figures it out.
Yeah.
And
well, that's where the discernment comes in, right? That's where discernment is, though. Like that word, again, coming back to it, making sure you're in prayer. You're asking those questions consistently, not just once in your life and then never again, right? Every role, everything you're doing.
And you're right. And, you got to get to know your Father in heaven so well so that you don't constantly go and ask Dad, hey, Dad, can I do this? Hey, King, can I do this? Hey, Father, can I do that? It should just be like you keep working on that personal relationship so that when it comes up, you're like, yeah, Dad wouldn't be happy with that one. You know what I mean? Nope, my king would not want me to serve that. There's an experience and a feeling that just comes with that.
How did you come to faith? I know that's a loaded question, but I'm curious, how long have you been a Christian? Like, what was sort of that process and journey for you?
Yeah, I mean, I originally started when I was 5 years old, believe it or not. I asked the Lord into my heart. I said something called the sinner's prayer that people have sort of labeled that. That was with my grandmother when I was 5 years old at the foot of my bed. It had the 4 wooden posts. I remember that. She gave me a children's Bible. I still have it to this day. It's got all the pictures in it, right? And that's how it started. And even at a young age, eventually when I was 11, my parents divorced. That really impressed upon me some new perspective on life, which allowed me to explore my faith even deeper. I think as you age and you grow in life too, you start, whether it's you get a driver's license, you start dating, you get a job, eventually you're getting married, you start having kids. I mean, I feel like faith has this built-in, God made it so we have this natural progression in life that if you pay attention, there's lessons just built in there, and there's love in there. God loves you, and it comes out in all these life circumstances that just come at you if you're still and you listen. And I didn't always hear it, but when I look back on my life, there was a definite hand that kept me out of trouble in many ways, and in some ways allowed me to get in just enough trouble to learn the lesson, but not walk away completely busted. And I drowned when I was 21 years old. That was another miracle in my life that, I should be completely, honestly dead. I shouldn't have lived. And if I did, I shouldn't be able to speak. I shouldn't be able to hear. I shouldn't be able to walk. Like, I was underwater.
So now I need to ask. I need to know the details of this, because that's a big. You just dropped a big piece of information there. So what in the world happened?
I was a professional whitewater raft guide at the time. I was in the right place at the right time, and I was 5 years in. So, I was a professional at this. It wasn't anything new. And it just circumstances all lined up, and I ended up underwater. They guesstimate anywhere from 11 to 22 minutes. And yeah, eventually somebody found me. They brought me back. They got me to the hospital. They put me in a pressure chamber. And I'm, an actor. I walk and talk and breathe and chew bubble gum, and that shouldn't be happening. So again, just another reminder that God has his hand on my life, and there's a reason for it. And when I have those tough days, I got to go, man, God's got a purpose here.
What was your recovery like? You were without air, obviously, during this time. Like, how long did it take you to recover after that?
It is an absolute miracle, man. Like, weeks. Like, I was fine. Like, my eardrums didn't completely explode. They should have. They did. They should have been wrecked. My vocal cords still have a few. My voice will get really deep sometimes, and people are like, "Well, but I can't hear you. Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Man, my vocal cords just rub together. They have a bit of a shift." I've had there's a lot of pressure that happens. So, but hey, it's a blessing in my life, and it's part of my ministry, part of me sharing, hey, there's something out there that's beyond, science fiction here. This is supernatural.
That's a movie. I feel like you've got a movie there. You may already know that.
I'm actually working on it. I'm working on developing it into a partial movie. It's not like completely based on my life, but I do want to inject that experience, man, that faith, that like the most peaceful experience of my life mixed with the most scariest place of my life, all within a span of 22 minutes. You know what I mean? Wow.
Well, yeah. This has been an amazing conversation. That I want to do a whole other interview now just on that, because that's so wild and crazy. And here you are, you're inspiring people, sharing your story, your faith journey, the miracle you experienced, and your storytelling. And the film A Christmas Blessing is one opportunity for people to get to see you do just that. I really appreciate your time.
I dare people to watch it on, Great American Pureflix, the Great American channel. And my character, okay, if you don't laugh or smile or crack a chuckle or anything, like, I'll buy you dinner, because something's going to happen. Trust me. It's just that character's that quirky and different and fun. So I challenge everyone to just go have fun.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time joining us today. Again, the film is A Christmas Blessing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.